Eclipses and the False Ego. The following is an extract from the seminar of the Healing Masters Nirula entitled Eclipses and Influences, July 2009. Part 1.
Good healing opportunity. How many of you did extra healing on that day of the eclipse? Some of you did. Some of you didn't do much. See, what happens is, under the normal course of life, as we are going through life every day, there are a lot of emotional upheavals that take place. And there are the energies that we have within ourselves of anger and hatred and arrogance and fear and so on. So when you're a healer, what is happening is that this is happening for everybody, but for a healer, it works a little different. That in the universe are flowing out of the body of the creators a lot of healing energies, like the Shri Chakra, the Shri Yantra, Sudarshan Chakra, Lakshmi Yantra, Trishul. So many things are coming, and these are like discs that come and sit on top of a specific emotion or a specific characteristic and start to heal that. So when you are going through, let's for example, that if you are a healer and you're doing a lot of healing and there is some negative energy you're discharging saying that I wish I had some money. So Lakshmi Yantra will come and sit on top of that emotion or that thought. And if you're healing it, then it will transform, let's say, into wealth of some kind, or it will transform into spiritual wealth. So a lot of the times, because we have these feelings, I want money, I want this, I want that. So a lot of the healing is done that way. So the energy of those blessings is used up in providing material gains rather than spiritual gains. So on an eclipse day, this is multiplied many times because you're discharging much more negative energy on that day. So if you have, let's say, the Sudarshan Chakra comes and sits on top of your aura somewhere, that will give you energy to, or wisdom to destroy the negative things, the inimical things inside you that are holding you back. Now, if you're in ignorance, then it is going to give you material benefits, not the spiritual ones so much. So, although we are using this, we are sending healing, we are using these energies to sort of help us to materialize our desires in the material universe. Some portion is going for spirituality. So you could combine the two. That you should send the healing from now on, that not only do you get the material benefit, but this is helping your spiritual progress. So if you are asking for wealth materially, you might do well to ask for spiritual wealth as well. If you're asking for enemies to be destroyed externally or within your own mind and thinking, you can ask for internal things to be destroyed that are enemies in the path of your spiritual progress. You understand? So this way you can access not only the material but also maximally the spiritual, because you are in knowledge of it. If you are not in knowledge, then it's mostly going to give you the material relief. And some part is going to give you the spiritual relief. But if you ask for both, then it changes the way that this works. So when there is a lot of dark energies, when there is an eclipse, the dark energies, as we mentioned, all these negative energies have a greater time to maximize and erupt from your energy field. So it's a greater healing opportunity. We had also mentioned that if you have perfected some mantras, you should put your right foot in the water. A lot of people bathe waist deep in the water during this time. And that's because the energies that block your spiritual progress are there in your right toe in the form of the Ketu. which is obstructing the moon. So those energies become harmonized, then they don't act to create a problem or an obstacle in your spiritual evolution. Because good fortune energies are coming from your right toe. That's why you touch people's right toes. So that's another consideration. That's another energy reason why you must work with awareness. So the more you work with awareness, the more you will progress. Otherwise, you remain caught up within the material circuit. Of course, the spiritual is also being healed, but not to that extent. Because your awareness is not there, you're not directing or accepting the energies of that. So from now on, what you need to do is to accept the energies of spiritual progress along with the material progress as a formal intention. You must intend this formally. So, if you are asking for some intelligence for some material purpose, you should ask for spiritual wisdom and intelligence as well. So this will cover both sides of your existence, the spiritual and the material. So this will then truly be in harmonious state. If we are only looking at the material or only looking at the spiritual, then there is a little bit of disbalance. Because you cannot maintain the spiritual without material sustenance also. There must be some sustaining of material energies and benefits, otherwise you will lose the thrust, the momentum. And at the same time, if you are just focused on the material, then you lose the thrust of where you're supposed to go spiritually. So you must balance these two. You must have knowledge of where you're going spiritually. Ultimately, what is your goal? Right now, it has been in the background. It's somewhere vague that, while we are doing our healing for our everyday problems, we are also getting spiritualized, which is true. But then you're focusing too much on the material also sometimes. So in order to balance that, you need to get back into focusing that what is my spiritual goal. So even if you are not sure, you can ask for spiritual wealth, you can ask for spiritual wisdom, you can ask for destruction of inimical forces that are preventing you from spiritual progress. You can ask for strength, spiritual strength. You can ask for being spiritually connected in terms of wisdom. Intelligence and guidance and so on.
So, like you were saying that we should balance out both material and spiritual. So, while we are doing any method of KQ or Reiki, can I affirm that whatever benefit that comes to me from healing for this whatever particular thing is for my material and spiritual progress?
I'm wanting you to be a little more specific in the way that I have told you.
Sir, with the internal enemies, can we say that the external enemies are a reflection of the internal enemies?
They may be. What is the relevance of that?
So when we affirm that the internal enemies are destroyed that are in the path of spiritual progress, so the external enemies would also
do it and see what happens to the external enemies. If you finish the internal enemies, then you will see the reflection of that externally. The Keshi demon that Lord Krishna destroyed in Vrindavan is in the form of a big bull that used to come and destroy people's fields and, crops, and he was very destructive. So those fields and crops are considered to be your spiritual growth elements. So he reached in and he reached his hand into his throat and pulled him inside out. Killed him by turning him inside out. So the Keshi demon represents the false ego. So there is an inside and there is an outside. So the false ego is obstructing your connection with your true self actually. And all this is happening because of the darkness that is surrounding our thought process, our realization and consciousness actually, not so much the thought process. That is a far advanced stage, but basically obscuring your consciousness. So materially speaking, the spiritual element, the spirit soul is obscured by material consciousness, which is basically your false ego. Nothing can really, a material element like earth or stone can't obstruct your consciousness. What can obstruct it is a false element, which is the false ego with which you identify yourself. So the false ego is constructed of your illusory understanding of who you are. And that identification can draw your focus away from the inside. So the inside must come outside. Like the Keshi demon. So the demon was thinking he's under great protection because he's in the form of a bull. And the bulls and cows are not to be harmed in the cultural tradition. So he was getting away with a lot of nonsense. And nobody could do anything. So the false ego is like that. It is very sacred. Anything that impinges on our false ego perception of ourselves, we defend very vigorously. We say, no, you can't touch this. Because this is who I am. This is me. You understand? So we are spending or investing a lot of energy in protecting our false image of ourselves. And with the spiritual energy, you must have the strength to have it reversed, inside out, pulled out, so that you can actually see the reality. So that can be happening only when you remove that false ego. Then your vision is clear.
So for the false ego, any specific...
Forget affirmation. You spend time understanding what it is. This affirmation question is also from the false ego only. It's from their mind, which doesn't want to give itself up, basically. You understand the principle. You need to understand there are no affirmations once you understand. Because the understanding itself is the healing. Once you understand it and you are actually acknowledging that understanding, part of understanding means that it becomes a part of you. You know it. Then the false ego vanishes at that point in time. To the extent that you are understanding. To understand the principle, don't develop a mechanical method only. You have enough methods. You know what to do with the methods. So we are not going to discuss methods, we are going to discuss understanding. So when method is intruding, when understanding is being explained, that means that there is resistance. So false ego will resist by asking question after question. You have to just do what is needed to bypass the false ego. If you are depending only on method without changing your orientation, it's not working. Then it's theory. You must do it. And the only thing that is required to do it is to see the reality as it is. Be open to seeing and acknowledging. Be open to seeing and acknowledging. Not by word of mouth, by words, but by your activity, by your actions. And finally, the last trap of Maya is this, that I know it, I am enlightened. That is the final subtle trap of Maya, of the false ego.
I know it, but I don't know.
Hear what I'm saying. Don't misinterpret and add your own conclusions to what I'm saying. When you have reached the stage where you're saying, I am enlightened, I know this, that is also the false ego. So only when there is silence, truly, false ego is absent. So there must be internal silence. You cannot legislate silence. Either it is there or it isn't there. You can't say, I will now be silent. You can prepare the conditions to be silent. You can prepare the grounds so that silence happens. The mind quietens. The false ego is silent. We can create a condition. So you must create that condition. If you understand the principles of healing, then you will know how to create that condition. Those conditions will appear when you are in a state of consciousness where the false ego is not having any threat perceptions. The false ego is not threatened because you are now connecting at a higher level of understanding. You are no more at the consciousness level that you must defend your false ego. That is key. If you are trying to defend your false ego and your understanding of the universe as you have it up to this point in time, or you are trying to assess and analyze what is being conveyed and communicated to match with what you are doing and then evaluating, that is all false ego. So when you no more have a desire to defend the false ego, it will disappear. Defending is a sign of the false ego. All defending. Even defending the body, because the body is false ultimately. But we need the body to progress further. But ultimately, all defense, all resistance is a strengthening of your false ego, or a defense of the false ego, or a maintenance of the false ego. So when you are very fluid, your consciousness is fluid without you being disturbed. It is like a boat sitting in a lake and there is a ripple of water. The boat only moves up and down. It doesn't get dislodged from its positioning. But if there is a big wave, yes, it can get dislodged. So that up and down movement is there, but if you are anchored firmly in your consciousness of understanding that you are a spiritual element, a spiritual being connected to the healing energies, then ripples may come and go, waves may also come and go, but your consciousness is established in the constant, eternal, spiritual. So then there is nothing much to say. Or do you just act? You do. So you must try and touch this level of consciousness. You must practice it. You must practice this in a solitary place where your senses are not very disturbed or agitated. You need a little personal time, private time. In the middle of a lot of noise and hubbub, there is a certain awareness of that environment that is required. So your consciousness may be divided. But there is always a part of you which is elsewhere. And if you connect with that, then you will see the same thing in a different light. Any questions so far? So why don't you just relax, close your eyes, put your hand on your knees, and consider what we have said. And go inwards to see. Focus inwardly. And connect with the areas of your life that you want to observe internally. And look at them without defending or promoting any aspect of your prior experience, of your prior knowledge. And you will begin to see what it is that you need to do. What is the action you need to take? So go inwardly and explore. Without the burden of having to defend or justify, analyze or criticize. Purely as an observer. With no judgments, no assessments, no conclusions. And you will begin to see what needs to be done. You will begin to see the chaotic aspect of your life, the chaos. And as you observe this chaos, you will also begin to see what it is that you need to do. So find those threads that need to be untangled and unraveled. And work on them in a perfectly calm and relaxed way. Instead of focusing on the why of a particular situation, focus on the how of resolving it. We do not want the why analysis. We want to connect with what needs to be done and allow that needs to be done understanding to flow through you. What you need to do. And then seeing how you're going to achieve that or do it. You'll find the so-called chaos has disappeared. Explore as many areas of your life as you wish. Connecting with the chaos purely as an observer who is not influencing the observation. Which permits you to understand what you need to do. Connect with the balance that comes with understanding what you need to do and stay with that. Gently connect with your breathing at your nostrils, just being aware of the incoming and the outgoing breath. Slowly take a few deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling, bringing your consciousness back to this time and place with the knowledge, the understanding, the transformation that you have created. As you breathe in and out, allow this to flow into your aura, into your life, and into your actions further. Gently place the palms of your hands over your eyes. Gently press, open your eyes, look at your palms and bring your hands down. So were you able to connect with the chaos and understand the chaos? How many did not connect?
That did need completely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That will I'm not maybe I can't accept that
Takes practice. You need practice. You can go back and do this. Put yourself in a meditative state, focusing on your breath, being in a relatively undisturbed environment, so that you can focus and be aware internally. And not project from your false ego or the thought process. You just observe everything, including the thought process. Any questions or comments?
why and the how they want to the time was by should be
Yes, because the why is not creating any action. It's the how that creates the action. The why is only looking for reasonings, arguments, counter-arguments, justifications, analysis. No action. Action is how, and that is when you directly touch the truth. When you have a direct perception of what is happening in front of you, that is enlightenment. When you see the truth as it is, it has its own action. When it is not filtered by the false ego. So that's why a transformation takes place. So the transformation only takes place when the false ego is silent. And you can directly touch the truth of something. That is called realization. And when you touch the truth of who you really are, that is self-realization. So you will have different levels of self-realization and realization happening when you use this technique, which is not a technique. So that's why there is no method. Because the truth itself speaks directly.
when we see in terms of how, it actually makes things possible to do. That this can be done. Why is like stuck. How is you can do it.
That's right.
Is it why is like blaming others or trying to find a way out? How is it possible?
Why relay? What do I need to do and how do I need to do it to get to that point is the action. So that you will understand when you observe without the false ego speaking, without the false ego interfering, without your defending. Your is only part of the false ego that is put himself as a separate part of itself. Actually, it is a part of the false ego only, your thinking mind. So particularly on Amavasya, which was the 22nd of July 2009, the eclipse was also there. So the Amavasya removes the thinking mind. It gives you a better opportunity to connect with self-realization. So Amavasya is a very spiritual day. Because it is permitting the mind to be very silent. Environmental influences on the mind are minimal. So therefore you have mindless fear also happening. But if you are a healer, that fear is vanishing. The fear of the eclipse. It allows you to connect with these healing energies that are coming from the body of the divine, from the Supreme Being. Yes, it is coming for everyone. It is coming from the planets and the stars and the everything. It's all originally coming from the body of Krishna and Radharani and all the divinities. It's coming from them. So that's how they are traveling through the universe. Depends how you connect. So you can connect at any point, any time. Anybody can connect. But as an empowered healer, you have a lot more going for you. You have a spiritual connection of an empowered level, of an active empowered level. For one who doesn't have the spiritual connection, only his false ego will grow. So in any case, you have to be vigilant that the false ego is not growing. Lots of things will grow, including the false ego. So you need to be vigilant to cut out the false ego, to pull it out. And don't forget the last trap of Maya. The I am enlightened situation. That is a trap. Very subtle trap. That is the false ego speaking. I think you have enough material, enough work, and enough understanding. So you should stay with this understanding and work with this silently internally and see how much of this you can project into your daily life. It's not difficult. All you need is to connect with the chaos in the way that you have done already. Leaving the false ego aside. Not defending, not justifying. Not protecting. Not going by your previous understanding of the world view or whatever understanding of yourself. Not allowing that to influence what you are connecting with. A little bit of practice and you'll be fine. Or whatever you have experienced now, that's it. We've all been through this. But don't try and compare future experiences with this. That is also a trick of the mind. So ultimately the mind must wind down. Because if at every turn of the mind you are having the internal understanding without interfering with what the mind is doing, the mind will automatically have no choice but to be silent. So you have to observe. So there's a part of you which is an observer, which is not commenting, a non-commentator. And then there is the mind that is commenting. So if you observe without the mind getting drawn into the mind's commentation, then only the observer is left. And in that observation you can see the reality. So that is realization and self-realization. Direct perception of the truth, no filters of the mind, of words, of analyses, just knowingness. It's a knowing. Just like you experience this, so that will get there. So therefore there is no method, except there is a non-method, which is that you just wait and you work in a way that will make the mind silent. We don't know all the time, some of the time, maybe, whenever. Sometimes the mind is needed, so you use the mind for when it's needed. At other time the mind is not needed. It has a habit of intruding into everything. Like the Keshi demon is going freely, roaming around freely, uprooting your spiritual crops, your spiritual field, because everybody is afraid to do anything about the false ego. You turn it inside out. Then you can connect to the reality. Okay, so you can go home, stay with this, connect in a similar way, whenever possible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.